Hi, welcome to KATFIT Stitch. Today we're going to alter a Mother of the Bride dress. It's a beautiful dress. You can't see the whole thing with my camera here, but I'm gonna try and show you what I'm gonna do. It's a long gown and it's got a train in the back, and so we're gonna cut part of that off, and I'm gonna show you a little bit step by step of how I shorten a long gown like this. It's got a slip kind of inserted into it, so I'm gonna show you that as well. And I'm going to kind of show you how we cut off the lovely train. Sometimes it's okay to have a train for Mother of the Bride dress, but if the person who's wearing it doesn't want it, or you know, for some reason it needs to be cut off, I'll show you how to do that. All right, so join me in the next segment as we get started. All right, so what we're gonna do, I'm just gonna show you here. It's got a front slit, right? So it makes it a little bit difficult to shorten. You have to make sure both are the same. And once we do everything, you know, finalize everything, we're gonna make sure that that is exactly the same length. You don't want one leg looking longer than the other when you have the dress on. Anyway, what I have done here, I brought it over, I went over to Cheryl's, and I had her try the dress on, and then I just pinned around the whole bottom circumference of the dress, and until she could like walk smoothly with her shoes on. We don't want too much of the toe showing. We don't want it like the length too long so that she trips over it. We just want a tiny smidge of the toe showing and where she's comfortable walking and it's not obstructing. So what I did all along here, I mean, this isn't how I pinned it when she had it on, but it was kind of all over the place so that it didn't droop or anything like that. So I've kind of cleaned it up, and what I've done also is I put a little chalk line, I don't know if you can see that, put a little chalk line right where it's supposed to meet the floor, or, you know, have it completely finished once it's finished. I wanted to mark, so I went on each of the creases here and just chalk marked a little chalk line right where it's supposed to meet the floor, or, you know, have it completely finished once it's finished. I wanted to mark, so I went on each of the creases here and just chalk marked, especially on the seams, chalk marked where it's supposed to meet the finished floor, or finish draping on the floor. So I've moved all the pins over right to the edge, because what I'm gonna do, I'll show you here, what I'm gonna do inside, I'm not gonna remove the pins, because sometimes when you remove the pins you forget, oh shoot, was it there or was it there? And then you end up getting it too long or too short. So we've moved the pins right to the very edge, making sure we don't clip any of this underskirting into that, because what I'm gonna do once it's all ready, and it is actually all ready, I've got the pins all the way around and perfectly in place, so that I'm going to start cutting and see where it meets the slit in the front. I just kind of pulled away the underslip, because we don't want to cut that once we start cutting to prepare to do the hem. Okay, so I'm going to meet you in the next segment, and we're going to start clipping away. Okay? All right, so I'm going to start picking away just the area where the slip attaches in the front slit, because we want to have everything free and clear so that we can start cutting along the hem. So I'm just pulling that away a little bit. I know it's black, it's hard to see, but you just want to make sure when there's a slit involved, which is this, the construction of the dress is made so that part of the slip attaches to the front of the V, this V slit. So we've pulled that away. We're going to put it back once it's all hemmed and everything. Remove it. Be very careful not to snag the fabric. You want to make sure you have a lot of light. That's why I have my window here, and I've got a lamp behind me and a lamp in front of me over here, in hopes that you can see it all. All right. So if you can see, bottom of the V slit, this is the part that goes to the floor, and we've removed the slip area, freeing that seam so that I can start cutting along the edge here. This is my method anyway, and it always seems to work for me. I know that some seamstresses would say, that's not how you do it. But you know what? Every seamstress does it a little different way. Whichever way you're comfortable is totally fine. Anyway, I will see you in the next segment when we start cutting. Hello. Now we're going to start cutting along the pins that I have at the bottom of the skirt. I know that I could probably just draw a chalk line all the way around, remove all the pins, and then start cutting about, a 1/2 inch below the chalk line, and that way, it would be sure to be the exact length. But I like to just be extra cautious, and so I keep the pins in, and then I start cutting. And I've got a serger that will clean it all up, so I don't have to worry about, oh, this has to be perfect. Can't have any jagged edges or anything like that. But this way seems to work fine for me. So this is about probably 1.5 inches. Let me just see if I've got a measuring tape here. Just hold on. Yeah, so what we're cutting off is about 1.5 inches from the bottom of the skirt. And you might say, well, you need to measure that 1.5 inches all the way along. But what I've noticed is that even though a dress looks perfect when you buy it, they're all constructed differently, and one side may be even longer than the other. So you can't really rely on measuring, from the bottom up exact all the way around. You have to fit it to the customer and kind of alter it here or there. I mean, a lot of these dresses are made in third world countries, unfortunately, and they're made fast and cheap, and so you can't always guarantee that they are even on either side. So you always have to measure on the client first. Okay, so I'm not going to show you all the way around because it gets to be tedious, and I know you just want to see, the finished product and how it all looks. So what I've done, you can see I've cut off the 1.5 inches. Once I pinned it and I marked the chalk line not heavily marking because it is black. You don't want to dirty up the dress. But anyway, roughly 1.5 inches. Doesn't have to be even. You know, my scissors didn't do a good job, but as I said, I still have my pin lines, I still have my chalk lines. Flip it over, and then there I've left about, roughly about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 seam allowance, which is fine, because what I'm gonna do after I get this all clipped all the way around, cutting off the train and all that, I'm going to serge the edge, and then I'm gonna fold it over and sew it. And then once that is in place, we're going to check where the slip needs to come up and do the same thing with that. Okay, join me in the next segment once I have it all clipped off, and I'll show you what we do next. I just wanted to show you clipping off the train and what that entails. And I wanted to remind you guys where the pins are marking the base new hemline and where we're going to cut off. What I've done is you have to make sure that you put your hand underneath the whole area that you're clipping off, because you do not want to clip away any of this over the hem area from behind. It's very important that you just slowly clip along, and always have your hand underneath the area that you're clipping for safeguarding it so that it doesn't clip where you don't want it to have a hole. I know that some would do it differently, where they're measuring exactly, drawing a line exactly, getting out their measuring tape and, you know, doing this kind of thing and marking all along with a solid line, maybe a wax tailoring chalk rather than just the chalk line, and do everything precise and then cutting along one line. I know that a lot of people may do that, and as I said before, you know, you can do whatever you want. Nobody's making the rules up for you. Whatever, alterations are like that, you know? You find a way that works and you do it. I've been doing alterations for, you know, over 30 years, and there's no exact way. You know, you do the best you can. You measure, you cut, you develop a plan to do it all, and you do it. I mean, there's no rule book for alterations, because every dress is made differently and every situation is different. Now here, I just want to show you, I'll cut a little bit more. Oops. Okay, this is the back seam of the dress that scales out to the train, and this is taking it off. Look how much there is here taken off compared to the front where I've taken off 1.5 inches. So the train, let's measure that and see. The train is a 4-inch train, and that's how long it is draping past the floor line, and that is what we're taking off. So we carry on around the circle until we're completely done the train, and then I'll see you in the next segment, and I'll show you what we're gonna do next. I just wanted to show you the completely removed segment of the hem. It's pretty cool, eh? And I just wanted to also say that previous video there, I said it was a 4-inch train. It's actually a 6-inch train. I was just not at the exact back. So yeah, 6 inches all the way around to 1.5 inches. as you can see, look at this, guys. I mean, it's 1.5 inches, most of it, but yet on the other side, look at how uneven this dress was. That's crazy. So that's why I say you can't always just measure from the bottom up and say, oh, I'll take exactly 1.5 inches off all the way around. Well, that may be fine and dandy, but if the dress isn't made exactly the way it should be, made quickly in a third world country or whatever, and one side is longer than the other side, then you're gonna run into problems. That's why you have to have the dress tried on, and you measure and pin to the floor length to make sure that it's the same all the way around once you're finished. So finished clipping the all the way around, and got the V, you've got everything ready and lined up. And now actually what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to use this as a baseline to measure the slip to take off that same amount. Yeah, so I first have to find out if the train, if the slip is as long as the train was. Sometimes there's not a slip extending underneath the train, so I have to explore that. And like I said, alterations are just trial and error. You gotta see which way works best and do it. And I also think that what I'm going to do differently than what I had planned is I was going to serge along the edge, but seeing as though the original hem was just a rollover hem, might stick with that idea. So anyway, I will figure that part out, and I'll see you in the next segment. Yeah, this dress, it does have a lining that extended all the way to the edge of the train. I don't know why they do that, but yeah, so now I'm going to have to cut off that train extension on the lining here. So like right here, see how long that part is, and underneath that's where we clip that away already. So it already looks beautiful. Like I can see how the edge is gonna look. It's all even. Dress is pretty well just about ready to quickly do up the hem. An alteration job like this doesn't really take that long. I've been kind of taking my time because I'm filming in between here and there, but an alteration job like this, I mean, you could probably get this done in a couple hours if you just did it straight through. But everybody's different, and it depends on how you actually go about doing it, because you do have to kind of figure out, oh, how am I going to do this and how am I going to do that? And you know, some dresses have the beautiful slit in the front, and some are just basic, all just one length. And yeah, so well, anyway, this is I just wanted to lay it out here just to see you know, if that slip did extend. So I'll just use the piece that I cut off from the outer fabric of the dress as a pattern for inside the slip and cut that same length off. But I want to be very careful that I don't cut too much off. You don't ever want the slip hanging below the hemline. That's just not good. So you want to make sure, step by step, you pull it to its length and make sure that it is not too long. Okay, anyway, I'll see you in the next segment. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I did with the slip, the underskirt here. The piece that I cut off around of the regular fabric, the main fabric, I used that piece like a pattern piece, and I pinned it on the bottom of the slip all the way around. And just to show you here that it's not all even, no matter how much you pay for a dress or whatever, wherever you buy it, it's usually constructed somewhere else and not made by a seamstress, so it's not, the panels aren't even, the length sometimes isn't even. And just to show you that, as I was pinning it around, it's shorter and it's not as wide and it's uneven, so I've had to kind of improvise all the way around. You see where I've pinned everything. As long as you've got the main junction areas pinned properly, like the seams, seam to seam all the way around. The only place that it really, you know, is a little bit offset is the front area, and that's okay because we're doing an inch and a half off the front, and then the back is a little more. So I'll have to play with this a little bit once I have it all cut and see how it drapes before I hem everything up. But it's what you have to work with when, you know, you don't know where the dress was constructed. If you've got everything tailor-made for you, you know, somebody's made a pattern, made a grad dress or a mother of the bride dress or a wedding dress from a pattern, you've had a seamstress make it or whatever, it's a little bit different than, you know, oh, okay, each panel is going to be this way or that way, but there's still that element of, you know, imperfection. There's always, nothing's ever perfect, even if you've got a professional seamstress sewing it for you. Things happen, you know, material twists. Sometimes it's not sewn on the grain line, and sometimes it pulls in a little different direction and makes it look like it's not even all the way around. But sewing is everybody always thinks it's supposed to be, oh, so perfect. Everything's going to match here to here to here to here to here. And most of the time, yes. But there's always going to be some little imperfection or something that's not perfect, and it's an illusion. Perfection is an illusion. You can't expect when you have something sewn, a garment of any kind, that it's going to be perfect all the way around. So you have to keep that in mind when you make alterations, because of, you know, one side maybe is longer than the other side and that kind of thing. So what the next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to start cutting along the edge of this kind of mock pattern piece that I've put on here, so that I know where the edge, where the floor length comes to on the underskirt. Okay, so join me in the next segment and we'll go through that. All right, so we're going to start cutting along the edge of the slip, the underskirt. You want to push up all your fabric out of the way, because you don't ever want to accidentally, oop, I've clipped the front of the dress. Oh no, then there's nothing you can do. Well, there are things you can do as a alterationist. You can improvise and fix things like that, but you don't want to have to do that. So you want to pull, if you see what my arm is doing, I'm pushing all the fabric out of the way so that I only have the lightweight slip in front of me. But even still, you want to put your hand underneath it, because you want to make sure there's no surprises and you're not cutting your own jeans or your own shirt or whatever. And you want to then cut along here. I don't like to mark everything out. I just like to kind of do it like this, because it's just as easy kind of pulling your hand, or putting your hand underneath it and cutting where the pattern piece, the mock shift kind of pattern piece is. And sure, I could lay it all out and I could mark it all with tailor chalk and then take all the pins out and then cut a line really quickly. You could do that, but sometimes when you do all those preparation things, if you're doing something, if you're doing this for a living, alterations and stuff, and you're fooling around with this and fooling around with that, and it's going to take you all day, and you're not going to make any money. So you want to find quick ways to do this. If it's just yourself and you're wanting to save money on bridal alterations, things like that, then, you know, go ahead, take your time, take the whole day. But for me, I've done a lot of these and a lot of different alterations, and I just like to find quick ways to do things, and it just gives you the same results anyway. I mean, it's just cutting a scissor with a scissors, just cutting fabric. Just make sure you know where you're cutting, and then the whole thing will just come together and look the same as if you spent, you know, 200 hours measuring and you know, pinning and drawing lines and making sure it's all completely perfect before you cut it. It's still all going to be the same alteration. It's going to look the same. So I like to find quick ways to do things. So anyway, I'm going to be cutting all the way around there. I'm not going to film that segment of it just because it gets a little bit boring, but just generally, you know what I'm doing. I'm cutting away that bottom part of the slip. So join me in the next segment and I will show you what we do after that. Okay, so I've got everything cut off of the for the slip. And now what I want to make sure to do is where the V slit comes in the front here, I want to make sure that each side is exactly the same length before we even start any kind of attempted sewing at all. Okay? To right from where I cut, from the cut line, I'm going to measure. Don't want to pull it. This material, I mean, it's not a stretch, but I mean, you can still pull it a little bit and give it a false reading. So let's see, right up to the V, and it is 27.5 inches. Okay, that's one side, and on the other side, right from the V, without stretching anything, exactly 27.5. That was without, you know, drawing lines, removing the pins and drawing the lines and then cutting exactly on that line. That was just from Cheryl's fitting. When she tried the dress on and I pinned up the hem, you know, above the floor line, that was just kind of winging it with size wise. I mean, we haven't done anything else to it yet, but it's a good start because it's where it should be. And when we pull the two of them together, both even, see that, both even, and inside for the lining where we picked away, there's a little bit of a discrepancy there, but it is the lining. The lining comes down further on the right side of the dress, so I'll just compensate when I hem that. I'll pull it up a little bit. In fact, I'm just gonna pick away from the lining from the dress where it was attached, because the lining is attached on the front of the V, and then it's loose around the bottom, or around the front, the sides and the back. So, I mean, as you can see, the lining is attached all the way up the V, and we don't want to disturb that. So at the bottom here, I mean, we just have to hem around now. That, I mean, the rest is pretty simple. If we can get the sizing right, you know, then we don't really have to worry about anything else. All that's the next step is to just, I have to figure out if I want to serge the edge and then roll it over, because that may be easier. I mean, not necessarily easier. I mean, it's an extra step, but it gives it a clean finish so that it rolls, the hem rolls easier. But you don't have to. I mean, I could see which way I want to do it and then tell you guys, show you guys. But yeah, really, the only thing left now to do is to just hem the skirt, and then hem the lining, and then really you're done. I mean, there was an attachment at the back where the train was, the circular train. There was an attachment with threads into the seams so that it kind of kept it in place, and you didn't have, you know, your lining pulling this way and then your dress pulling that way. So I'll reinforce that a little bit as well once everything is done. But yeah, it looks pretty good, and I think I'm ready for the next step, just hemming it up. All right, so join me in the next segment and we will do that. One more thing I wanted to show you guys before we start sewing it up. Look how, okay, so this is the whole dress, right? Just a second here. That's the whole dress, all cut and ready to sew the hem. Now, just laying it out, sorry, I don't have anywhere bigger to lay this out other than my nice clean carpet, so don't worry, Cheryl. It's nice and clean. No dog hairs or anything, and I just cleaned the house. So anyway, what you want to do is you want to pull everything out and make sure that lining is not coming down past where you're going to do the hemline. And this looks actually perfect. Oh, it's turned out so good. I'm so happy. Yeah, so you want to pull out all the rest and make sure that is not going to hang down past the hemline. Yeah, so just wanted to show you how good it's turning out. No matter how long you've sewn, like my sewing experience is over 30 years. I've sewn in factories, I've sewn for myself, and sewn as a business and all kinds of stuff like that. But it doesn't mean everything's gonna be absolutely perfect each time, and you know exactly how you're gonna do this and you know exactly how you're gonna do that, because every dress is different, every alteration is different, and it's still step-by-step trial and error, and that's okay. But yeah, it looks like it is working out. Look at how lovely it hangs. It's still jagged edges, that's okay. I'm gonna fix that up once I do the hem. Whether I do the serging or whether I just do a roll hem right away, I don't know yet. But join me in the next segment and we will start the process of sewing. So a few days have gone by and I have not finished this dress yet. So I left off just trying to figure out whether I would serge the edge so I have a clean edge to work with for the hem, or just do a roll hem right off this edge. I want to show you guys something. Okay, so this is the edge, and it's like, it's not 100% perfectly straight. So what I'm gonna do is, I've decided I'm gonna serge the edge, and then for me anyways, I find it's easier to roll over once it's all serged. So I'll show you what I mean by that. This is just a piece of the leftover stuff that I serged the edge on, and if you can see, it's easier to roll. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's easier to roll and pull straight when you have a serged edge, and then you can make it as narrow as you want. I mean, you can also use different presser feet to do a rolled hem if you want, but I like to do it this way, I guess. I mean, we all have our preferences. So that's what I'm gonna do. So I've threaded my serger with the black thread. Can't see it, it's on the other side. It's just a very narrow serge. And I'll just show you a little bit of this here. So. Just making all the jagged edges straight as I can. Alright, so that's basically what we're gonna do, and I'll show you the edge that I've serged already, so you see how nice and clean it is. Maybe an extra step, also, you know, because we're rolling it and it's going to be hidden, so it's like, why would you even bother? But for me, I just like to have a clean edge, and it doesn't take more than a few minutes just to serge the edge around the dress, just so I have something clean to work with. So anyways, that is it. I'm going to do all the way around. I'm not going to bore you by showing every moment of it. So I'll finish that, and I'll do the lining as well. And then just join me in the next segment where we will roll it and do the seam. Okay? Okay, so I am doing the hem around the outer skirt, and I've had to add a little extra light because it's very, very difficult when it's black. So as you remember, we serged the edge just to get a clean edge. You don't actually have to do that, but it helps kind of guide things, and there's a bit of a stretch to this. So you can either do a stretch stitch, or you can do a straight stitch. I'm just doing a straight stitch, and it seems to be working pretty good. And so I'll just show you a little bit about how I'm doing it. I'm just kind of rolling it over as narrow as I possibly can, and then trying to see with the dark. Even though I have a window beside me, a light behind me, and a light beside me, and the light on the sewing machine, it's still difficult because it's black. So you have to be very careful with black. You want to make sure that your hem is all even and there's no puckering or any kind of thread buildup on the bottom, because then it would not look good. Anyways, here we go. Pull as you sew on this type of hem, and all the way around the skirt. Now, one good thing about the serge is that it gives you a kind of a baseline to kind of pull, you know, instead of unevenness all over the place. I like to pull it up in my fingers here and use that as a tension kind of to pull it through. If it was really, really stretchy, you would not want to pull, as I'm going to show you in the slip later on. Make sure it's all even before you start sewing it. And as narrow as you possibly can get it. mincemeat it, that you've got everything laying flat. Okay, I'll see you in the next segment when we look at the slip. Okay, I just want to show you how it turned out. I mean, you can't really see it because it's so dark in the camera, but I'll try and help you see it. The hemline is a rolled hem, very, very narrow as you can get it. What I did was I tacked the slip back on to the V. See? Once again, it's very hard to match up the lines and the sewing lines where you have to tack here and there, because it's just very hard to see black. No matter how much light you have, natural light or whatever, it's very difficult. What I also did was I just left the serge on the slip. The slip is extremely stretchy, and I just found that any kind of single needle sewing on it didn't do it justice. No matter how perfect you try and get the edge, it's still going to look a little uneven, and I just thought that having a serged edge is a lot crisper and looks more professional. So I just left it like that, and yeah, hopefully, I mean, it'll drape nice. I'll get a picture once everything is once Cheryl tries the dress on. I'll get a picture. And one more thing that I do have to do is I have to steam press it, the bottom hem, just a little bit, just to make sure that, you know, everything is straight, not puckered or anything like that, and kind of give it a clean feel. And yeah, so that's it. I think the only thing that can really make an alteration of a long dress like this a little more challenging is the color, because like black, as I said, is hard to see. But aside from that, you kind of just have to figure out, you know, how do you want your how do you want to do the edging, especially the slip. I mean, if you wanted, you could do a rolled hem on the slip, but as I said, I think it gives a more professional look if you just have a nice narrow serge, a decorative serge. And yeah, that's it. It's not really a lot to it. Most of it is just measuring with the customer, and I think there's a little tiny bit of chalk line left here, and it meets up with where my hem ends, so it looks like it's pretty good. With these type of dresses that have a V bottom and it kind of flares out a little bit, it's a little more challenging to get it the right length all the way around. That's why it's best to just pin and do the best that you can with the pin, and a second fitting is always a good thing. So we're going to do that as well and make sure that it all hangs where it should. But as I said before, you know, sewing is not a exact science, so there may be a little bit of a, you know, uneven tiny bit here or there. I mean, you try to eliminate as much as you can of that, but alterations are not a perfect science. How it hangs is not a perfect science, and especially because you just don't know how it was constructed, and some sides can be longer than others, so you do the best you can, eyeballing it with how it drapes to the ground. And even shoes matter, you know, the height of the shoes and, you know, that kind of thing. But I think this is going to be perfect, and a great dress for Mother of the Bride dress for Cheryl. anyway, that's it, and I will show my face. Sorry, got pajama pants on. Anyway, yeah, so that's it for now, and we'll take it over to Cheryl's and get it altered, or get her to try it on one more time and make sure everything is good. So see you in the next segment, and yeah, thanks for following along with me on this alteration. Bye for now.